So how did we do?
Awesome. That was sweet. Great. So interesting.
Any ahas? Any comments? Any questions? Questions, comments?
Oh, well, I found that, when I had my mistake maker over in the chair, and I was like, answering all these questions, I felt sorry for her because she was just trying to do the best she could.
Nice.
She was shrinking and shrinking.
That's right. So the goal of the therapist is to make the mistake maker forgivable.
Oh, totally.
So you did a good job. Your client, your therapist did a good job
Yes.
of making your mistake maker forgivable. That's why I rip on her. Because then you, the client, are going to go, wait a minute, she's not so bad.
Yeah, exactly.
Stop beating up on my mistake maker, big bad therapist. You get that?
Great.
She's just great.
That's why I'm so mean about it over here. I'm going overboard mean. At some point, you're going to, wait a minute, it's my mistake maker. I'm the only one who gets to do this. She's not so bad, and then now you're starting to come together a little bit.
Because it was so intense. What Rose did was said, okay, we're just going to have her catch those things that you're answering with a mitt. So I visualized a mitt. She was catching them and putting them in a bag. Because
Beautiful.
it was too hurtful.
Beautiful. I like it. Allow the client their own metaphor.
Then your things were going to her, then she was...
And she's looking at them and learning from them and putting them in a bag.
I love when we can...
And then I imagine throwing the bag over and merging into me.
Yeah.
I love when we can objectify things like that. We can turn thoughts into objects. Because in hypnotherapy, we can do something with those objects. When I talk about the stuff leaving your body, that's an object. Color?
You know something I find is amazing? When my kids were little, we had a book and it was about warm fuzzies and cold pricklies.
Yeah.
You know this?
Oh, yeah.
And I think that is so valid that you don't have to take, if somebody throws you a cold prickly, you don't have to reach up and grab it. You can let it go by. If somebody throws you a warm fuzzy, you can appreciate it and then throw it back. And I just think that's the most wonderful way of thinking about letting other people affect you. You know, that if somebody just throws you a cold prickly, that's their problem. You don't have to accept it.
Good one. Excellent. Anybody else? Ahas, questions, comments? Yes.
I didn't see a chair.
That's fine.
I didn't see a room.
Yep.
I saw colors. Of course, I was sitting in the sun. That's nice. And it was interesting after forgiving, the color got a little lighter.
Wow. Very nice.
It was there wasn't a color all the time. It was just kind of not swirling, but kind of changing.
Beautiful.
So
And maybe a skilled therapist, right after the forgiveness phase, might say, do you notice anything different right now?
yeah.
Right.
And then highlight it. Wow, that's right. He just came up with his own on his own, which is beautiful. Yes.
Well, and another thing that I noticed too is that on that part where you go and look at yourself and what was it that I was going to say now? I don't remember now.
Okay, it'll come back to you.
It'll come back to me.
It'll come back to you.
I'm sorry.
Anybody else before we
It was
move
really
on?
important. Like
Yeah, bring it when it comes to you.
Rose, the librarian.
Any other
That's
ahas?
right.
So I want to wrap it up by saying, not only is this an intervention, but this is another tool for your athletes. This is one of the biggest problems, mental game of athletes. They take to heart their screw-ups and they carry it with them. And we've done the clearing up until today, this moment that we've done this. We've helped them, we've guided them, but we've also taught them how to do it for themselves from here on out. Remember, we are not really their therapist. We're their mental toughness or their sports mental game coach. And we're giving them tools because they're responsible. So in the future, they get to, in fact, I'll ask them, so what are you going to do the next time you strike out? Right after we did this. Well, I'm going to go in the dugout and I'm going to rip on my mistake maker in my head and then I'm going to forgive him. And then two of us are going to go back to back. Fresh and clean and clear. Starting clear. Got it? Cool. All right. Yes.
I remembered it.
Good.
It was the part about you were perfect.
Yes.
The shift was really interesting. I sat different. I felt myself sitting different, seeing that separateness between, even though that other part of me was sitting there, by her saying those words had an effect.
Good point, because I've noticed that many times. Some of these clients have never been told they're good, or they're just the way they are, and all that. And when you tell them that, and they can believe it, because here's where all the mistakes are, right over there. And now we've set up this metaphor for them to believe they're perfect, because without this, they're going, no, I'm not. I screw up all the time. I'm not perfect. I'm horrible. I strike out. I miss game-winning shots. But now you separate it out, and they go, I can believe it. Nice. Way to point that out. I'm glad. Excellent. So now we're going to move on to regression. And regression is, who here has got some training in regression, just so I know where you're at? Okay. Everybody's got some regression, a little bit? Okay. So we could spend a whole weekend just on this alone. So I'm just going to go through the key points of how you're going to apply it to athletes. All right? Now, so we're going to go back and forth. Well, actually, let's just go to the section on regression. I think it's, 31. Thank you. And on the outline on page 7, there's just some tips on how to do this. So I'll guide you through it. And I have got, right at the top here, some metaphors to help you bring people to the past. But we're not going to spend a lot of time on that, how to get back. I mentioned here the train through the past. You say, and now we're going to go on a train ride through the past, and you go through the tunnel, make up however you want to do that. All right, time machine is a good one. Get it. You have a time machine. Get in there and press the dials to go backwards in time. You can walk down a hallway with dated doors. And this is really useful for finding things. Because the object of the game is to go find some stuff to work on in the past that is connected to why they do what they do today. Bottom line, that's regression, right? Now, I mentioned that 1% and the mistake maker thing. You can get into regressions really quickly and on accident or, through digging, even in just personal talk, in the detailed history. And you don't have to go through this whole thing I'm going to teach you here. You can just do quickie ones like, a simple thing could just be, so when did you first learn that? Boom, you can be in regression. Or you can say, how old of a child does that behavior? That's a good one. And they'll instantly think, oh, that's 8 years old. So can you remember when you were an 8-year-old doing that? That's an instant regression, right? And remember in the mistake maker I said, it's a regression on I'm bad. Meaning I deserve to be punished by my mistake maker because I'm bad, or some form of that. And you can say, when did you learn that? Boom, you're in regression. And then you can use the tools what we're going to use right now. Okay? So, we're looking for stuff to work on. Now, a really quick caution, as a backstop, anyone who talks about regression should mention abreactions, which is somebody going too emotional. It's too strong for them. It's probably too much for you to deal with in your session, and you probably shouldn't go there and use some other technique. It's only happened to me like twice. And but you should be aware, and the way to deal with that is before you start a regression, or in your induction, you say, and now you are paying attention to the chair that you're sitting in. Notice the chair. You're anchoring the chair. The chair reminds you that you are safe and secure in my office. You feel the chair on your back. So if you ever get to an abreaction, and an abreaction is very subjective when they're really in one that you don't feel, you are the one who has to decide whether you can handle it or not. Okay? And all you do is just say, and now that scene fades and your mind goes to the chair. Where you're safe and secure right here in 2012 in my office. The chair, feel the chair. You've already set that up, maybe in induction or in regular talk. So that's your out to get back out of a regression if you're in over your head, if it's too much. And you can go and use some other indirect methods. With sports, we don't find, especially if you're working with younger folks, they just don't have a lot of stuff. And most of the people you will see in your office, will be young folks, teens, and they have very supportive parents who care a lot about them and are spending money on them, right? So this is mostly, the reaction is for when you're working with the recreational adults, recreational players. You have no clue what's going on with them until you get into this regression thing. And I don't use regression on everybody. I might use it here and there and mix with some of these other things. Never with the mistake maker. I stick with what I taught you. But maybe in parts and maybe in oh no, that's right, it does happen, that 1% in the mistake maker. At that point where you can't get the mistake maker to ask for forgiveness. But that's rare. Anyway, let's move down here. Some folks are really big on making sure we get the core cause. And some of the causes, or some of the problems we're going to deal with head on here are the fears, right? And perfectionism is a big one. I want to speak a moment on perfectionism. This is big in sports. People in sports think of perfectionism. I don't have it written anywhere, so you just write notes. I actually do. There's a little line there in the concepts towards the back. Whatever. Perfectionism. People walk around using it, talking about it like it's a badge of honor. It's destructive. Now, here's how I encourage them to change their language and their thinking about what we are labeling perfection. I say, instead of being a perfectionist, strive for perfection without being a perfectionist. Strive for perfection, knowing you can never get it. Because think about this, and I'll usually do this right in the intake when I hear I'm a perfectionist. Or the mother or father say, he's a perfectionist. I go, I'm going to go right at it, right? I'm going to usually interrupt them and say, here's the deal about perfectionism. Is it okay? And I usually ask permission. Is it okay if I kind of, be a little harsh with you right now? Because I'm going to get harsh. And they'll say yeah. Because I've asked permission. That's why they're here, to get my opinion. So, in my opinion, perfectionism is the coward's way. It's cowardly. It's the least courageous thing you can do. They say, can you ever achieve perfection? They all say no. So what you're doing is you're setting yourself up for something you can never achieve. And you've given yourself an out to never achieve something. How do you feel about that? And then just listen and see what they have to say about that. I would much rather you put a goal out in front of you, something that's doable, but a stretch. Smart goals. Pick a goal. Perfectionism is a horrible goal, and that's what you've been working towards. You can never get it. Isn't that true? I go, yeah. So let's change your language. You strive for perfection without being a perfectionist. Just using that word perfectionist, you labeled yourself as someone who must attain perfection. It's like the unconscious behind it. So regression is really good. In fact, it's probably the most powerful thing to get rid of that. The mistake maker might massage it and break it up a little bit. But what we're going to do, and starting with me, I've got this optional section. I just want to talk about that. And that is, in the regression field, some people, we had a little discussion about this earlier, are trained and are well-versed in how to go do past life regression. And I think it's wonderful. If you're trained and you're in that and you know what to do, I don't. The farthest back I go is birth.
What do you do if you don't find anything by then?
Say again?
What if you don't find what you're looking for by then?
I always go back to plausible cause and effect. Right? Every hypnotherapist I've ever asked is, do you have to absolutely positively go back to regression to help somebody change a response? No. People change responses all the time without ever doing past life regression. I'm not saying it is a good and useful tool. I believe it is for people who know how to do it and are trained. But I don't think you need to. So I'm good with, and the reason I personally don't do it is because I live in a very conservative and I operate in a very conservative area. And people are coming to me for sports. They're not coming to me for past life, and that offends some people. And I just don't want it introduced. For me personally, I have no problem. But I don't exist in my office. I'm there for my clients. And I just don't want to get into the whole discussion. It's not useful, and we don't need it. Okay? Good? Good enough?
Alienate some people.
Yeah, it alienates some people. What's that?
Your mental toughness. What about being tough?
I'm plenty tough.
Right.
But I don't want to spend the time explaining all
Right.
this stuff and go into it. And it's just efficiency. Let's get to the core as fast as we can with the tools that I know work.
And that's good.
Yeah, thank you. Okay, I appreciate that.
Tough is good.
Now, the optional part, which goes from B to E, is, so I've used one of our methods to go back, and the free association is to just have them go find some events, basically. Some events that are linked up to why they do what they do today. So for instance, if they're, let's use perfectionism as we go through here. I'm a perfectionist. Well, me telling them they're a coward gets things rolling, but it doesn't necessarily clear the underlying subconscious reasons why they generated that program, right? So we got to go down there and deal with it too. So I go, all right, think about being a perfectionist. Just think about it. Now, feel what it's like to be a perfectionist. What does that feel like to you? Do you feel something in your body? There's so many ways to do this. You know, this is called an affect bridge, where you're bridging the feeling and using that feeling to take them back somewhere. You can do it so many different ways. I wing it all the time, just like I'm doing right now. And I'll use that sheet I gave you. And think about a time when you were younger and you felt this same feeling. Or you might even just ask him directly, when do you remember the first time that you thought about being a perfectionist? And just see what comes up. And the script is really cool. It says, now link that up to another time you might have felt that way. And when you get to the events, they tell you what the story is. And without spending too much time on how to do a good regression, you basically just want to make your language as open as possible, non-leading as much as possible, right? And there's some great books on that. I'm not going to spend the rest of this time. The core is, the B through E is, once you've got your events, I like to go back to birth. And now we're going to go back to the moment you were born. 3, 2, 1, you're there. You see the baby. All right? They're looking at themselves. And we're just going to do some ego boosting. And I'll tell them to tell me what's great about this baby coming into the world. What's this baby born with? They're talking about themselves. And I might have to guide them. And I got some stuff that I can help them with from what? The 3 lists. Remember that? All the things they told me about what their accomplishments and what they're good at. So if they don't come up with something, didn't we do grown up? And I'm talking to grown up. And I'll switch back and forth and say grown up baby, grown up 7-year-old, grown up 10-year-old. I use those terms to refer to the different characters there, right? Kind of with me? Questions so far? I'll stop myself. Okay? The point of the matter is we're going back to birth. We're going to have the client repeat everything that's great about themselves, the baby, coming into the world, their skills, talents, and abilities they are born with, that they develop throughout their whole life. They know this because they're them. And they've just spent a whole session with me before telling me about it. And then I say, I want you to, all that great stuff, it's a symbol. Please bring up for me a symbol that represents all that you're great at. And they come up with things like a dove, a sunshine, a cross, a star. I go, great. Now give that baby, put it on an amulet or a bracelet or something, and give it to the baby. And that's going to be their little resource symbol, their little thing they hold on to as they go through all these events going forward in time. All right. Then, if we're dealing with perfection, that's usually going to be some events later in life. But since we're at baby, and you don't have to do this baby thing, you can just deal with the events. But I'm going to tell you what it's all about, the gist of it, and I'll have you read the steps later. But when we're at a baby, this is a great time to just do some generalized personal development. And I usually will look for fears at this point. Most kids, when they grow up, they get all kinds of fears. And generally speaking, we're dealing with fear here. Fear is the biggest interference in our athletes. All of them who come to us. So I'll just do some simple fears, like, when you grown up, what fears did you have that you would like to teach this baby so he doesn't have to have these fears? And I'll say, well, were you afraid of the dark? Oh yeah, that's a good one. Almost all kids are afraid of the dark. And what we're doing is teaching them how to teach their child. So I'll have them say, what would you like to teach this child about the dark? And if they struggle with it, and they're like, I don't know. Well, you can say things like, well, isn't the dark a time to rest and rejuvenate? And a fun time to go into dreamland? And help your body heal? Yes. And isn't it true, grown-up, that you're going to go through 45 years, or however old they are, 13 years of dark nights, and you're going to be just fine? Yes. Tell that baby that stuff. Because that's the truth about the dark. Kids grow up thinking the dark has boogeymen under the bed. Right? So I'm teaching them how to teach their child, which we're also going to use in the later events. But we got to teach them how to teach their child. Is this making sense? Questions so far? All right. For athletes, what we want to do is get all their fears. Get them all out. Like, if you go to my website that has me on the evening magazine with the gymnast that I help overcome the tumbling blocks, believe it or not, one of her fears was fear of needles. I am 100% convinced her fear of needles contributed to her fear of going backwards. All these fears. It's the habit of how they create fears. And so when we do this regression work on needles or the fear of their dogs or the fear of the dark, and we just get them in this habit, we're going back and redoing how they create fears. That's going to help them release the core fear when we get down and dirty. You know, for the gymnast, it's the fear of danger. So all these fears, the unconscious mind says, you know what, I've had enough. This is way too much. I got to put a kibosh on all this fear stuff that's causing stress. I can't run the body. That's it. I'm done. I'm going to make her quit gymnastics. I actually had a golfer. Okay, this is a sport. There's no danger. Right? There's no danger. Well, you could get hit by a ball, but I've golfed for 47 years and I've never got hit by a ball. So it's so minimal. But this golfer came to me and says, I said, so what's the deal? What's going on with your game? Oh, my game's great. I'm awesome. What are you doing here for? Well, it seems like every time I see my shadow, I can't swing. Stopped him from golfing. If I swing and I go like this and I see my shadow, okay, that's just a crazy mental block. That's kind of like, but that's just your unconscious mind jumping on one little thing to get your attention about something you really care about in order to say, hey, your life isn't working for us right now. You need to do something about it. And it drove him to see me. And sure enough, I could have just done a quick little regression to, when did you first learn about the thing? But I guarantee you it would expand it out into a million things that's going wrong in his life. And the habits and patterns and all that stuff. So I already know this from doing this work for long. I clear all the habits and patterns and the things I've taught you so far. And then we go to the core. When did you learn the shadow? Which happened maybe one time, and the unconscious mind went, oh cool, this works. This gets him to quit golf. Yay! I've just eliminated a big stressor out of him. Now I can operate this body a little bit better. Making sense? So we need to do all this stuff a lot of the time. It's a lot easier with 12-year-old kids because they don't have a mess of stuff going on in their life. 18 breakups and alcohol and all that stuff. It's a lot quicker with the kids. So, and they go into hypnosis so easy too. All right, back to the regression. The optional part with the baby, we're teaching them. We're just giving them all kinds of wonderful training about the truth about things so they grow up without these fears. So this new baby grows up without fears. And then we'll move them forward. Let's say the first event that we came up with is at 7 years old. And it was a time when they struck out in Little League or something like that. And Dad, on the way home, says, son, you need to make sure you stand in the box and hold tight. And the dad is just thinking he's being a good dad teaching his son. But the son got the idea that Dad doesn't approve of me or love me unless I get hits. This is the most common thing you'll run into. So what do? The event is sitting there at the plate, right? And I struck out, and how do you feel about that? When we took them back when they first experienced it, they're telling you the story. And you just say, what's the story? And they'll tell you, yeah, and I'm thinking Dad doesn't like me, Coach doesn't like me, whatever. Dad's yelling at me, whatever. And then after we've done the baby thing, or the baby thing's optional, I just like it. We're going forward, and I'll say, I'm going to count from 1 to 7. Because the event is at 7. And with each number, a year goes by in this baby's life. And this baby's going to remember and hold on to all the things you just taught him. And anytime he has difficulty, he's going to grab onto that little star symbol. And that's going to get him through. And this is a really quick way to just transform those first 7 years of life, metaphorically. And maybe energetically too. Right? So I go, 1, the baby's growing up, and I'm doing a commentary, and he's learning about how he's great and amazing, and 2, he's a toddler and is finding his legs and holding on to his little star, and the dark is a fun thing, or whatever else. 3, and now he's really understanding how he's humorous, and I'll just play up 4, 5, 6, and now he's 7 at the event, just before the event, when he struck out in the T-ball. And once again, you have the adult. What do you need to teach this little 7-year-old, talking to adult now, grown up, teach the 7-year-old what he needs to know so he can get through this event feeling great about himself. And I might have to help the grown-up. Especially if it's a young kid, a 14-year-old. Some of them aren't that imaginative. So here's the kind of things I'll teach them. I'll say, grown up, isn't it true that strikeouts are a part of the game and everybody strikes out 6 times or more? Yeah. Tell your child that. And tell them what the deal is. What's the truth about striking out? Well, everybody strikes out and you're going to be fine. And it's just the thing that you do. And Babe Ruth, he struck out the most in the whole league, yet he was the most amazing athlete everybody looked up to, and he struck out more than anyone. Very few people know that, by the way. And I have that listed in the back. There's all kinds of sports stories you can use on the last page of this to help reinforce some of these things. Athletes and the story surround them. So that's a good one I might use for mistakes. Or a basketball player, I'd say, did you know that Michael Jordan missed 28 game-winning shots? Michael Jordan, the greatest basketball player in the world. Isn't that true, grown up? Yeah. So is it missing a game-winning shot at the end of your career? No. Does it mean anything? No. Other than, do you want him to just work harder next time? Yes. Tell him. So hopefully you don't have to guide as much as I just did. That's your last resort, is to give those ideas. With kids, you might have to. Okay? And then you go, all right, at the count of 3, he's going to go through that event with all the stuff you learned, and he's going to finish feeling great about himself. Oh, here's a way to reframe what Dad did in the car. This is important. Is we need to reframe Dad is not, he first came to the perception that Dad didn't approve of him and doesn't love him and is not going to love him unless he does well in sports. I mean, that's the number one thing you're going to get out of this, that you need to deal with in regression, right? And so we'll teach them, we'll have the grown-up teach the child, isn't it true that your dad loves you? Yeah. Isn't it true your dad loves you whether you strike out or not? Yeah. Tell him. And we have the client tell this baby that has nothing to do with performance. Dad loves you. And here's proof Dad loves you. And give him a bunch of reasons. But whatever you suggest, you've got to make sure your client does the teaching to the baby, to the little one. Does that make sense? So you can guide them and give them some possible suggestions. Hopefully they'll do more work and you do less work. Those are your best clients. But you know what? Go with whatever you got there. Yes?
So could you also, the father, take him into it, your father is, he's got a job, right? And he is like an engineer. And right now, when he's talking to you, he's wearing a different hat, not the dad hat. What hat would he be wearing?
Perfect. That's a great one. There's like 18 million different ways to help reframe or help a child get through a difficult event. A real common one, I think, did I mention some of these? I did not. It might be in there. This is where we can all help each other. And I'd love to hear some here just like that. I'd love to. Another really good one I use a lot is the shield. Give this child a shield so that when he goes through this event, the name calling from the teammates or the nasty tone that somebody used from the coach just bounces off you. Right? Give the child something like that. There's so many different ways to do transformation through an event. As Bandler said, it's never too late to have a happy childhood. And that's what we're shooting for.
He got that from Erickson, actually.
Did he? Oh, great. I'm glad to hear that. You got that from Erickson for the cameras. And that's what we're shooting for. That's the bottom line. Any other ideas of how we can get a child through? Let's hear them for everybody. How we can get through what the grown-up went through was a difficult event. And think in terms of sports. That was a great one. Shield. I'll just say, isn't it true Dad loves you? Yeah. Tell him why that's true and why he can believe that. We're going to give the child some antidotes, some proof as to what we wanted to believe is the truth. And the perception grown-up had going through it the first time, that's crazy talk. Because now we got the benefit of 2020, hindsight, and we're a grown-up. And that's the goal of regression work. Does that make sense? Anybody got any other great ideas of how to transform work? Transformation work? I once personally did some regression with a friend of mine. And I had an altercation with another kid who was much bigger than me. And I remember distinctly, and I'm in hypnotherapy. I'd never thought of this except in hypnotherapy it came out just perfectly. And right at the moment where I was being accosted, I was saying, my therapist was saying, "What's going on?" And I said, "All my energy's draining out of me." So the transformation work, anybody want to guess what is a good suggestion for me? What's that?
Energy flowing in.
Energy flowing in, or at least hold on. What my therapist said, can you get through this event and just hold on to it? Let's have a protective casing so your energy stays in you as you go through this same event the second time around. Make sense? That's an antidote. That's going to keep my energy in. I mean, I remember just feeling it. I'm living it right there. And go, whoosh. And she says, all right, so now we're going to go through. Can you go through it this time? Now, some people will say, take the child through the actual event exactly the way it happened, scene by scene, and that's great. I'll do that sometimes. But I don't think it's necessary. You can just say, take them through that event and have them hold the shield, and then when the event's all over, you just go 1, 2, 3, it's over. So they don't really have to, go through it again to save time. If you want to go through it, that's great. Sometimes I find it useful. But at the end, here's the crucial part. Say, all right, at the count of 3, I'm going to talk to the child. The child's going to talk to me using your voice. 1, 2, 3. So, 8-year-old, you were amazing. Can you tell me how you got through that? Tell me how you did it. This is key. Because remember, grown-up clients doing the talking. Well, whatever, and you're going to write down. Because this is the new resource clients can use in the future. Whatever they come up with, right? This is the core of it. This is the thing they're going to use the next time they have this thought about performance anxiety in the future. Well, I just thought about my star. Or, well, I just thought, you know what? It has nothing to do with me. Dad has his own personal issues that he learned from his dad. Well, I just thought as I was going through that you've grown up, you told me I'm going to do some great things, so I just figured this was a good learning for the next great thing. I've heard all kinds of good stuff like that. Interview the child. That's your key there. And get what the child did, which is the grown-up, right? And then when we're all done, you just bring the child back in. You have them merge in and you can do some kind of ceremony where you hug them back in. Child goes into your heart. And now I love to wrap it up this way by saying, and now the child is going to teach you. The child is going to guide you from now on. Because this child has got this strength and has learned and never got all those crazy perceptions grown-up did. The child is like amazing, right? And is now in you, is now going to change your DNA, change your muscles, change your nervous system, and is doing that work right now for you. Talk about being responsible. I got the child inside the client doing all the work. Isn't this great? I didn't do anything. All I do is give ideas, perspective for the client to adopt and teach himself. And get it into the body using this metaphor. That's all I did. Make sense? Questions? Cool. Let's see. Oh, and at the end, I got there and I get the client to tell you about the change that has been made. Once again, you can ask questions like, so what, when you think about the issues that used to make you feel performance anxiety, how do you feel about that now? And maybe the child can help you. Huh? Isn't that great? And here's a good one I like to use. What words of wisdom does your inner mind have for you going forward after this? They're telling you how they're going to take it forward. You can say, so how do you see the next day and week and month being better because of what we did here? Cause, effect, learning, behavior, or performance. We want to connect these things up as much as possible because they don't do it on their own a lot. That's what we're trying to teach them how to do. Does this make sense?
Yeah.
Okay. Oh, there's some of my questions. I got them on 33. Right there on 33. Now here's another tool that I really have found a lot of benefit in recently since I started adopting it. At the end of the mistake maker, at the end of this, or the next one we're going to teach you the parts, I'll say, when I've wrapped it all up and I've done a monologue and reinforced the things, right? And I'll say, take a few moments and let all this sink in. This is really powerful. Because they're in hypnosis. And they're going to have all kinds of visions. And they're going to replay what just happened. And they're really going to enforce it at the most powerful time. You've got them in hypnosis. And you've just spent 5 minutes reinforcing it. And they get to go over it and over it. But really now on their own. I'll just sit there again for about a minute or two, or maybe longer, and just let them do it. Then I'll wrap it up. And I skipped over, but remember, after the process, the interaction, hit the record button, do a monologue, recap what just happened, and then and now you're going to think about everything just happened. You take a few moments and let it all sink in, or something like that. And you've hit the record button, and even when they get to replay this MP3, it'll come up differently the next time. They'll come up with new awarenesses. It's so great. It's these recordings just keep on giving to them. And it means something different a week from now after they've had another difficult experience, or when the thought about perfectionism comes up in a different way or different context. They keep getting the opportunity to come up with new awarenesses on their own, which is really powerful. Cool? And then, like I said in my monologue, I'll throw in all kinds of other techniques and tools and minor things, and we'll go over those at the end of today. Good? All right. I would do an exercise, but we are running out of time. If we have time, we'll come back to that. Any questions right now on how I like to tie in regression? Yes.
I'm just lost when you turned off the recorder.
Turned off the recorder?
Yeah.
Okay. I do an induction,
You did the induction.
turn it off.
Okay, great. So it's the same as before.
Same as before.
Okay.
All my sessions are like this.
Okay, great.
First session, which is all monologue, which is all direct suggestion, I run it the whole way. I turn it off anytime we're doing interactive,
Okay.
and turn it back on when I'm doing monologue. Yeah. Good. Any other questions?